For thousands of years, history told a specific story about where civilization began. We thought we had mapped the ancient world. We thought we knew who held the power, who built the monuments, and who wrote the past. The prevailing consensus was clear. The cradle of Chinese culture belonged entirely to the Yellow River Valley, a singular lineage radiating outward. We were wrong. Picture this. It's July 1986. You are a low wage laborer knee deep in the suffocating wet red clay of a quiet brickyard in Sichuan, China. The air is soup, your muscles ache, and your goal for the day is to dig up enough mud to hit your daily quota. You drive your rusted shovel into the muck. A sharp, hollow metallic ring vibrates right up your arm, rattling your teeth. That is definitely not a rock. You drop to your knees, frantically clawing away at the heavy dirt with your bare hands. You're expected to find a piece of metal scrap or maybe an old pipe. Instead, you find yourself staring directly into a pair of massive protruding bronze eyes. They are elongated, hyper stylized, and completely inhumane. Yet, they're looking straight through you. You're looking at a sacrificial mask larger than a human torso, buried in a place where history books swear nothing but primitive wilderness existed 3,000 years ago. You don't know it yet, but you didn't just ruin your shovel. You just shattered the entire timeline of human civilization. Because you didn't just dig up an artifact, you unearthed an entirely forgotten reality. When archaeologists rushed to the scene, the scale of what was hidden behind that quiet brickyard defied imagination. Buried in two massive rectangular sacrificial pits lay thousands of priceless treasures gold, jade, and elephant tusks layered like pages of a forgotten book. But it was the bronze that froze the experts in their tracks. These weren't standard ancient relics. They were towering 8 foot tall statues of regal figures with unnaturally oversized hands. There were dozens of disembodied bronze heads, some wearing masks, hammered from pure gleaming gold foil. This was the lost kingdom of Shu, a highly sophisticated civilization that strived over 3,000 years ago. They existed chronologically alongside the famous Shang dynasty to the north, yet their art, their religion, and their visual aesthetic belonged to a completely different universe. While the Shang focused on intricate ritual vessels decorated with abstract monsters, the people of Sanxingdui were obsessed with human form, with the divine, and most importantly, with the eyes. But the most terrifying detail isn't what they left behind, it's what they didn't. They left absolutely no written records, no texts, no names, no histories, leaving us to decipher a silent language of broken metal and buried gods. To truly understand how deeply this discovery disrupted our understanding of the past, you have to look closer at the artifacts themselves. The defining icons of Sanxingdui are the massive bronze masks with eyes that do not look, but protrude. The pupils extend outward, literal cylinders stretching inches out of their sockets like telescopes, flanked by massive sweeping ears that resemble wings. Ancient texts compiled centuries later hint at a mythical first king of Shu named Sansong, who was said to possess protruding eyes. Were these masks the faces of their defied ancestors, or were their tools designed to see the spirit world? When these masks were pulled from the earth, researchers found traces of black paint smeared across the exaggerated eyebrows and vivid vermilion pigment layered inside the ears and nostrils. Some scholars believe these colors aren't just decorative. They were ritual offerings meant to give the bronze faces the mythical powers to taste, hear, breathe, and speak. Then there is the crowning achievement, the giant bronze spirit tree. Standing at a staggering 13 feet tall, it is the largest, most complex single three-dimensional bronze object from the ancient world. Its twisting branches are adorned with delicate leaves, hanging fruit, and 9 bronze birds perching on its limbs. A terrifying horned dragon with a human like hand slithers down the trunk, acting as a physical highway between the heavens and the earth. Historians believe this tree is a physical manifestation of an ancient solar myth. According to legends, 10 sons lived in a divine tree. Each day, 9 sons would rest as birds on the branches, while one bird would carry the sun across the sky. If this myth is true, the Sanxingdui people weren't just practicing local folk religion, they had constructed a physical 3D model of the cosmos. The engineering required to build such monuments is a forensic anomaly in itself. Cast from a highly sophisticated alloy of copper, tin, and lead, these structures required precise roaring temperatures exceeding 1000 degrees Celsius. Advanced chemical and technical knowledge that, according to our mainstream historical timeline, simply shouldn't have existed in this isolated region at the time. But the mystery deepens with recent breakthroughs. For decades, it was assumed their culture was entirely isolated, an alien anomaly evolving in the vacuum of the Sichuan basin. But advanced analysis had revealed a staggering truth. The empire was the center of a massive ancient network. Archaeologists analyzing a newly unearthed bronze figurine, which was a kneeling man balancing a sacred ritual vessel on his head, discovered something shocking. The monument was a Frankenstein creation. The kneeling figurine was cast locally, but the ritual vessel on his head was manufactured hundreds of miles away in the Central Plains, utilizing entirely different minerals. Even stranger, the two pieces didn't fit. The artisans had deliberately shaved down and modified the imported vessel, wiring and soldering the components together to force them into a single unified monument. This tells us that they weren't alone. They were actively trading, interacting, and absorbing minerals from distant rivals. Yet they took those foreign ideas and violently bent them together for their own unique, bizarre theology. Which brings us to the most unsettling part of their chapter, the end. The true mystery isn't just how they built this, it's why they destroyed it. When forensic scientists meticulously mapped the layers of the sacrificial pits, they realized they weren't just looking at the aftermath of a foreign invasion. Every single masterpiece was systematically desecrated. The towering 13-foot spirit tree was violently chopped into dozens of fragments. The life-size bronze statues were hacked apart at the joints. The faces of the golden masked kings were intentionally gouged and defaced. Once the destruction was complete, the pieces were subjected to an intense roaring fire until the metal warped and charred. Then, while the fragments were still smoking, the people meticulously layered them into the earth. First went the small bronze heads, then a massive layer of hundreds of elephant tusks, followed by jade blades, and finally, a capping layer of ash and soil. Recent radiocarbon dating confirms that multiple pits across the site were filled during the exact same time, around 1200 BC. Why would a civilization invest unimaginable wealth, generations of labor, and unparalleled artistic genius into creating the physical manifestations of their gods, only to systematically slaughter them and cast them into the dark? Archaeologists have thrown dozens of theories at the wall of silence. Some suggest a catastrophic natural disaster. The Sichuan basin is highly prone to earthquakes and devastating floods. Imagine a society that believes its gods protect them from the elements. Suddenly, a massive earthquake strikes, rivers change course, crops fail, and starvation sets in. The people took to their towering bronze trees and staring deities, realizing their gods had failed them. In a fit of theological fury, or a desperate final sacrifice to appease the angry earth, they destroy the idols, bury the old world, and abandon the city forever. Another theory suggests a profound political or religious schism. The city was divided by a river. On one side stood the massive palaces of the ruling elite, on the other, the sacred workshops and temples. Did a civil war erupt between the kings and the priests? Did a new regime take power, executing the old religion by literally burying its physical remnants? We may never know the trigger, but the finality of their departure is absolute. After the pits were sealed, the grand workshops went cold. The smoke from the smelting furnaces cleared. A civilization advanced enough to manipulate metal on a monumental scale vanished without leaving behind a single written word to explain their sacrifice. They left no parting explanations, no lineage, and no warnings. Only their shattered silent gods remained to speak for them, buried deep where history was never meant to find them. They sealed their secrets in the dirt, leaving us with a chilling truth. We only know the past that survived. The rest remains locked away, waiting for the moment the earth decides to part its clay once more. Because the earth always keeps receipts.